Good morning, everyone. The Transportation and Commerce Committee will now come to order. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Alderman Vaccaro,
Present.
Alderwoman Middlebrook,
Present.
Alderman Narayan, Alderwoman Evans.
Here. Narayan's here.
Okay. Alderwoman,
Present. Evans here. Present.
Alderwoman Schweitzer,
Present.
Alderman Grass,
Here.
Alderman Lappy. Chair Cone,
Present.
Alderman Lappy. We have 7 present. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. It looks like we've got meeting minutes that need to be approved from our Wednesday, January 25th meeting. I'll entertain a motion on the approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by the alderman from the 23rd ward that we approve our meeting minutes from the January 25th meeting. It's been seconded by the alderwoman of the 4th ward. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Alderman Vaccaro,
Aye.
Alderwoman Middlebrook,
Aye.
Alderman Narayan,
Aye.
Alderwoman Evans,
Aye.
Alderwoman Schweitzer,
Aye.
Alderman Grass,
Aye.
Alderman Lappy. Chair Cone,
Aye.
Alderman Lappy. We have 7 aye votes.
Thank you. With that, you sustain the motion to approve our meeting minutes. We'll move on to board bills for review. We only have one item on the agenda for today, and that's board bill number 189. I will turn that over to representatives from the airport to speak on board bill number 189. I believe the airport director is here. I think I heard her voice earlier.
Good morning, Chairman Cone. Thank you. And
Good morning.
first of all, just a huge shout out to all of you for working with us through this. I know it was a last minute ask. Like everybody, we've got a lot of new people and just things got a little bit crossed ways before they got in before the deadline. So I apologize for that, but very grateful to you for agreeing to host this and work this through. So I am going to turn it over to Antonio Strong. Antonio's our Deputy Director for Finance and Accounting, and he is going to present the board bill this morning. And both of us will be available for any questions. Thank you.
Good morning, Transportation and Commerce Committee members and Chairman. So this board bill will authorize a public works and improvement program for the airport. Just to give you a little background, the dome structure of the airport opened in 1956, which was more than 65 years ago. So as you can imagine, any structure that old will always need capital improvement projects to maintain the integrity of the structure of the airport. So this ordinance would authorize the funding sources to execute the capital improvement program that we have planned and been working on for many months, almost a year, for fiscal year 23 and fiscal year 24. And those projects that we plan to execute are located on Exhibit A of your board bill package. The funding sources for these projects are our very own Airport Development Fund, passenger facility charges, and lastly, bonds that we are issuing that were approved by this committee about a month ago. And so at this point in time, we are requesting your approval to execute these capital improvement projects that we have planned for fiscal year 23 and 24.
One additional comment, if I may, Chairman, just so everyone understands, we worked with all of our airline partners as well for approval of this list of the capital projects, which they approved. And then as we sold the bonds for these, that will go back into the rate base that the airlines are charged. So it is an agreement with them as well. And they know that the bonds that were being sold will go back into their rate base.
Okay, thank you. I'll entertain questions from the committee. Alderman Vaccaro.
I have none. You answered my question. I want to see if any of the airlines were all fine, and that's cool. Thank you.
Alderwoman Middlebrook.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Alderman Narayan,
No questions. Thank you.
Alderwoman Evans,
No questions. Thank you.
Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Thank you so much. I'm interested in the locations that these funds come from. I'm looking at the fiscal note and seeing the Airport Development Fund, the Passenger Facility Charge Fund, and I know we just talked about the Series 2023 bonds. And then later in the exhibit, it talks about all of these operating and maintenance costs are funded from airport derived user charges. So are those two funds besides the bonds all things that we've talked about with Lisa? And where can you tell me a little bit more about where that funds come from?
Yeah, so the airport primarily receive airport improvement grants. So that is one of our main funding sources for the airport is airport improvement grants, which are funded from the government. But we also use our own fund, which is our airport development fund. So we plan to use about $9.5 million of our own airport development fund to fund these projects. The next fund that we would use is passenger facility charges. Passenger facility charges is a fee that is charged for that is charged on every ticket that is purchased when a traveler travels, and that charge is like about $4.50. And so that $4.50 help fund the capital improvement projects at airports. And then lastly is the bond sale, which is about $68 million that we are using to fund these projects. So that is the funding sources for our capital improvement projects.
And
One
for
of
those,
I was going to say one additional comment on that, Ms. Schweitzer, is that from the ADF, our development fund, those monies, we get a certain percentage of the non-aeronautical concession revenue, which is an agreement while we are mostly a residual airport, meaning that the airlines get the revenue that comes in here to offset the charges that we charge them. There is a percentage right now, it's 11% every year of the non-aeronautical concessions that goes back to the airport that we put in our airport development fund. So that particular fund, that's where those dollars come from. It's part of the concession, the non-aeronautical concessions out here.
thank you. And how much is in those funds in any given day?
So that is going to be different, depending on the fund use, but primarily a lot of our funds are they can't be used unless you get authorization to use those funds.
Mhm.
So a lot of the funds that we have are restricted. So to look at the balance of the funds, the best place to look at is our annual report. I'll try to pull that up real quick and try to give you an idea what those balances are real quick.
I think the airport development fund is roughly 17 million. The passenger facility charge, those are very restricted funds. You have to get through a passenger facility application process that goes through the FAA that approves for the authorization. So that is also running parallel with this, because for those passenger facilities, we do have to get FAA authority to use those funds for the project, because they're very defined in what they can be used for.
Thank you. I can definitely find that annual report. I'm learning all of this as I go on this committee, and I'm very grateful for the time that you take to explain how all of these funding sources work. It's a big dollar number, so it's helpful to just
Yeah.
understand it from my perspective. So I really appreciate it. And I'm looking at all of the project descriptions. Is there, anything that you feel like is still coming that's going to be it's not in this, but it's coming soon and we should expect, or?
Relative to additional capital improvement projects.
Right.
So, we're in that period of where we're trying to obviously negotiate on a potential new consolidated terminal build. So what we're trying to do is make sure that any project that we do now will carry over if indeed we move forward with a new terminal. And or if it's in a piece of equipment, obviously that could be used for the longer term. So we're trying to limit projects right now, in an effort to try to understand if we get the approvals with, all the necessary parties to move forward. We're in that process right now, which we anticipate will be about a year to an 18-month-long process to work with our air carriers. Again, they will be the primary funder of the new terminal if we move forward. So we are limiting the projects. There's always projects when you have an airport built in 1956. But what we're trying to do, this is a 2-year window. It was actually for 23 and 24. So we did a lease extension, which you all approved for 2 years to get us through this negotiation period. So we feel pretty comfortable that at least for the next 2 years, these would be the only projects that we would come forward with approval. In that time frame, we're very hopeful that we'll know our future and where we're going with the consolidated terminal build, if that's approved. And then we obviously, for that 7 to 8 year window, would limit anything that we could in terms of capital so that the money could be saved for the terminal.
Thank you. And just for my own understanding, the one that says AFM design only, parentheses, 85 million total program cost. Is that 85 million that's in this, what's being requested now, and that's the biggest expense? Or is that part of that project?
Antonio's got the
But,
budget.
say that again, which project were you
It
referring?
says AFM design only, 85 million total. It's just such a large number compared to the total being asked for. I wondered if that was the biggest thing that's being funded here, or if this is a percentage of that total cost that's being funded in this.
So that is an airfield maintenance building
Mhm.
that is going to be designed and constructed. The greatest portion of that funding of that will come from what we call a BIL grant, which was something new that the FAA issued, I guess almost about a year or 2 years ago. So the major portion of that will be funded from the BIL grant. So the 85 million will be BIL grant funds.
So this is, it's not saying that this is what's taking $85 million of this whole package. It's that this is part of it. Okay.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of things they're getting. It's a big piece of it. All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to answer all of my questions. I really appreciate it. That's all I
You're
have.
welcome.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Alderman Gross.
No questions for me. Thank you for being here, and thank you to the Alderman for the 13th for kind of asking some of these background context questions. I'm new to the committee also, and yeah, it's helpful to kind of get a bigger picture sometimes. And I also didn't know, and this is just kind of a random thought since I'm on the transition committee too. I think that maybe in our drives we should have like a reference folder that because I feel like some committees, like a transportation committee, I feel like, it would be handy to have like access to the airport's annual report, all the time. So maybe if like we have a folder, we can have stuff like that thrown in. But I'm gonna try to hunt down that annual report as well, because I bet I could learn a lot from it. So that's it. No questions, and thank you for getting this done.
We will send the annual report to Chairman Cohn, and then he can distribute it so you don't have to hunt it down. I don't know that we have it 100% finalized yet. We're in the process of finalizing it. Antonio can respond if it's 100% finalized, but we'll send that so that you're not having to hunt it down.
Sure, and I'll be honest,
Yeah,
even if I had last year's report, it'd just be helpful to kind of start seeing
Sure.
the frameworks.
Yeah,
We can-
so yeah, we definitely have both reports available. So immediately after this meeting, I'll send it to Chairman Cohn.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Lappy.
No questions, thank you.
Great. I don't, I guess it's related to the bill, but also with the notion of moving forward with the kind of redevelopment of the terminal, you kind of answered this a little bit, but I just want to make sure that we're clear. So this is being done with the terminal consolidation plan in mind, correct?
That's correct. The proposal that we would look at going forward that came out of our master planning, which we worked on for about 2.5 years, the preferred model that came out was a unified consolidated terminal. And those plans are also out there and available for review. At some point, we're happy to give a special review to this committee, or if, once we determine who the Transportation and Commerce Committee will be going forward, we can certainly take a look and present you all with that presentation. But yes, it would be a consolidated terminal, assuming we get the approvals to move forward.
Great, thank you. With that, I'll entertain a motion on Board Bill number 189.
So moved.
There wasn't a motion.
Well, I thought you would. So I'll make a motion. We pass Board Bill 189 with a due pass recommendation.
Second.
Previous roll.
Okay, it's been, I'm going to object to previous roll. There's been a motion by the Alderman of the 23rd Ward that we pass Board Bill 189 out with a due pass recommendation. It's been seconded by the Alderman from the 2nd Ward. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Alderman Vaccaro,
Aye.
Alderwoman Middlebrook,
Aye.
Alderman Narayan, Alderwoman Evans,
Aye.
Alderwoman Schweitzer,
Aye.
Alderman Grass,
Aye.
Alderman Lappy,
Aye.
Chair Cone.
Aye.
We have 8 aye votes.
Wonderful. Thank you all. As Rhonda kind of kicked off her remarks, this is the board bill that we had to suspend the rules, introduce the resolution to modify our date of introduction. So appreciate everyone's thoughtfulness and attentiveness to this and flexibility as we kind of work through our legislative process here. As she mentioned, it's pretty time sensitive. So thank you all for your participation this morning as well. I don't intend on having any additional Transportation and Commerce Committee meetings this session. So this might be the last time I get to see all of you as a committee, and just really want to thank you all for your service, your time, and your efforts this session. And, I will see you on the flip side.
Thank you.
With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
And with that, we stand adjourned. Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Be safe.